"What is it?" Charlie asked. He was 10 or 11 at this point. "Not sure," I replied. I turned my hat forward, hoping the brim would block out some of the glare on that sunny August afternoon. Something was floating on the water about a couple 100 feet offshore. It looked big, long too. I assumed it was the carcass of a whale. They'd been known to wash up every now and then again. "Maybe a whale?" I remarked. "Gross. Yeah, you think it's gross. Now wait until it reaches land and stinks up the beach for a couple miles in every direction." Charlie made a face. "I kinda want to poke at it," he said. I grinned. "That's my boy." "What are you two looking at?" Carol asked, as she approached our blanket. She had Ashley in the tow. They were returning from the snack bar holding burgers and sodas for our lunch. "Dead whale," I announced. "Ew!" Ashley screamed, studying the area where it floated. "Why are there birds flying at it?" "So they can eat it," I told her, which produced a grimace. "They're going to have their lunch, and we're going to have ours, unless you want to go out there and join them for some slimy whale." Ashley turned green. Charlie laughed. Carol rolled her eyes. The trifecta of fatherhood. We sat on the blanket and enjoyed our meal. It was exceptionally hot that day, and the beach was crowded. One by one, the nearby beachgoers noticed the carcass in the water and made their own comments. The older guy next to us wouldn't stop talking to his wife about how bad it was going to smell once the wind shifted. He seemed excited. A couple of hours had passed, and Charlie and Ash splashed around while Carol worked on her tan. I watched the kids go and make sure that they weren't getting sucked out to sea, but most of my focus was on the dead whale. It had gotten closer to shore as the tide rolled in. The seagulls weren't ignoring it. I thought it was strange. They'd be treating it like it was an all-you-can-eat buffet for a while, but now not a single one flew around it trying to take a bite. I felt a flicker of concern. "Hey guys," I called out. "Come on out of the water." Ashley obeyed, but Charlie kept doing his thing, although I could tell he had an eye on me to see if I really meant it. I shot him a death glare, and he moaned dramatically and followed his sister. "That whale's getting closer, and I don't want you getting its blood and guts all over you," I told him. "Ew," Ashley proclaimed, like I expected. "Dad, the water's fine," Charlie complained. "Mom, listen to your father," Carol replied automatically. "This sucks," Charlie whined, and plopped into the blanket next to his sister. "Stupid dead whale." We read and made our sandcastles and tanned for the next little while. I grimaced at my watch and saw it was around 4. The beach was still packed. Most of the beachgoers had made a choice to stop swimming, opting to instead dip their toes on the remaining sand, and the whale was only 50 or so feet offshore. "We should probably pack up and head home," I suggested. "That whale's going to be close for a comfort pretty soon, and I promise you'll be better off if you never have to smell it." "Yeah, and I need to start making dinner," Carol sighed. "Don't forget, your parents are coming around 7. I blinked. I had forgotten. "Your kids excited to see Grandma and Grandpa?" I asked. "Yes," they reply in illusion. "They take a look at that," a voice called at my left. It was an older guy who had been excited about the whale's stench, and he was pointing at the water. The 4 of us followed his finger. The mass of white feathers had washed ashore. "What the heck?" Carol said. She sounded perplexed. I stood up. A cluster of maybe 40 seagulls sat in a sudden heap of the sand. They were undoubtedly dead. Everyone nearby was whispering to one another. As we watched, a single gull swooped down and started to peck at the remains of one of its cousins. The people close enough make out the details, and they let all the collective shudder out when the bird tore its eye out of the corpse. It swallowed the morsel, flapped its wings, and flew away. "Well, that was gross, wasn't it, kids?" I announced. They didn't answer. They were watching the eye-eating bird and flew in a lazy circle above the bench. It was flying as if they were drunk, flapping and swooping, trying to regain altitude. Then again, without any ceremony, it fell out of the sky and landed in a drink cooler than a few blankets away. Carol grabbed the kids. "Come on," she insisted. "You two are coming with me to take a shower. God only knows what the water had in it." "Go with Mom, guys," I agreed. "I'll be right behind you." Carol turned to me. "Can you carry this stuff back to the car? We'll go after they're cleaned off." I nodded. My wife and kids trudged over to the showers. I could see they were already packed. This would take a while. I sighed and started gathering our things. Once it was all ready, I sat back down. I wasn't going to wait in the hot car while they were cleaned off. I took a look at the pile of dead gulls. They seemed puffier than they had been only a minute or two before. Swollen, I assumed. They were rotting because it was hot out, but the speed of which was happening surprised me. My focus shifted to the whale. It looked like it hit a pretty shallow spot. Once the tide went out later that night, it'd be properly beached. Poor tubby bastard, I thought. A soft, wet plopping sound caught my attention. It was taken by the wind, and I didn't know what protruded it. But then there was another and another. It was coming from the dead birds. I stared at the mass of dripping feathers and dull eyes. Now the color red was bright and prompted against their white bodies. "What the hell?" I muttered, as a bird after bird popped and split into a fountain of gore. The crowd around me grew animated. "That shouldn't be happening," someone called. Another person shouted, "Get away from it!" A scream pierced through the commotion, and everyone turned to see who produced it. A man was holding his son to his chest, and this kid was coated in gore in the sand. Beside him was the devastated remains of a seagull that had fallen from the sky. It looked like they had burned it in the sand and moved it a few feet away, but the kid had been near the burial spot when the bird burst. The kid was filthy and terrified and spinning up onto the sand, but it seemed no worse than his mom had poured the cooler of ice water over him to clean the blood and feathers off. He didn't seem to care for that sensation at all. I don't blame him. The beach started to be empty. In the distance, car engines roared to life. I glanced over the showers. My family was behind another 3 or 4 families in line. Carol was yelling at Charlie about something. Better her having to deal with him than me, I thought. I folded my chair and wrestled our belongings into my grasp. Carol, Charlie, and Ashley were almost at the shower. Charlie was scouring and rubbing his cheek. Carol must have laid a good one on him. Behind me, I heard a bizarre sound. It was like a massive sheet of rubber being stretched. I turned and dropped what I had been carrying. The whale had swollen like an obscene balloon. Thick, dark fluid poured from the holes in its flesh, presumably made by the birds who pecked it earlier. "Oh, Jesus, fuck," I thought. "That thing's about to pop. I'm gonna get soaked." I whirled around, covered my face, and screwed my eyes shut, waiting for the inevitable shower of rotting guts and hot blood. It didn't come. Instead, there was a different sound. No more stretching, and definitely not pop. It was wet and pulsive, like jelly being sucked through a straw. Cautiously, I turned back towards the carcass. Something was squeezing through its holes. It was thick and glistening, greenish-gray and streaked with ugly purple veins. It steamed when it struck the water, a stench unlike anything I had ever experienced beyond all that possible description met my nostrils. "Fuck absolutely every part of this," I told myself, and hauled our stuff up and bolted for the parking lot. As I ran, I looked at my family. They were showering off. I turned and examined the whale behind me. It was sinking back into the water. Whatever had killed it stopped it from emerging from the corpse. It was black in the ocean where, presumably, it had come from. I made a mental note to never set foot into the ocean again. I piled up our gear into the car and started up. Carol and the kids arrived back a few minutes later. "Did you see that thing?" I asked Carol, doing my best not to sound as frightened as I was. I didn't want Charlie and Ashley's day to be any worse. "No," she replied, "but we all smelt it." "Charlie threw up," Ashley announced, beaming. "No, I didn't," he pouted. "Okay, well, let's go home," I said, and threw the car in reverse. We headed through the lot towards the exit. I paused at the stop sign, ready to pull out to the traffic. In the corner of my eye, I saw a green car parked haphazardly in the back of the lot. It looked like it had been parked in haste. It was a commotion inside. I didn't see anything to the family, but I stared through the windows as I pulled into the main road. It was the family of a little boy who had been splashed by the dead seagull, the one I saw spitting into the sand afterwards. He looked different, bigger, heavier, almost as if he was swelling up. I let out a gasp of realization at the time, and all the windows of the green car turned bright red. Hearing my gasp, Carol turned to ask what's wrong. I shifted my eyes forward and kept our car moving forward down the road. Nothing, I replied. Nothing at all. Just a bad day. I paused and watched in the rearview mirror as bewildered, bloody parents leapt from the car. Their mouths were open and they were screaming and spitting onto the ground. A very bad day.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.